as it is 4:30 on May 15th. I'm going to call the Board of Health meeting to order. I'd love again, call to order. I wanted to let everybody know Steve needs to leave at 5:45, so he will be busting out of here to go to another meeting. First thing, approval of previous meeting minutes, and we have two of them. We have one from the open house and one from our April meeting. Any corrections to those?
Well, I would move that we accept the April 17th minutes. I think we vote on these separately. We're going to vote them together.
Let's do them together if nobody
All right.
has any corrections. They look fine to me, so.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion and to pass to approve
And I will second that
both
motion.
minutes for the 17th and the 25th.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Department updates. I was just thinking to myself, do I want to stick something else on your business? Did we talk about sticking something else? Business or is this something? I don't think we do. I don't think we do. I think we're good. Okay, department updates. I'm going to turn it over to Lori.
So on the grant side, we've received an extension on the current grant that covers the salary for the harm reduction specialist. So the reason that we have received the extension is because they are still waiting. The state is still waiting on awards to then figure out funding for the next grant cycle. So they have extended it 4 years. Which is a long time because the funding that we have in that current grant will get us through about midway through November. But as things currently stand, we'll just be notified if and when the award funding will be coming. The state is looking at if they receive grant funding for emergency preparedness at reducing that amount from $25,000 to $20,000 for health departments who opt in for that funding. But we still don't have any set anticipated amounts on that grant funding either. Let's see. So given the 2025 legislative statutory changes on the use of Health First Indiana, so including the requirement for Indiana residency and citizenship requirements. We did have the IU Health Public Nursing contract moved to the county fund this week. So that will help to at least eliminate that requirement. We are working with county legal on our internal system that we'll be using to track and keep that information. So more information to come later on that. Have some updates for environmental. So Foods Division attended Lemonade Day in May 17th. And they also attended a food protection training exercise actually today. They're currently using digital inspection reports, so big improvement there with the way that they are doing their reporting. Simeon and Cody renewed their lead risk assessors licenses this month and attended some continuing education classes, a conference for that. And they are working with the county legal department on the meth clearance project. So being able to go in and test for the homes that we currently have on our list. And wastewater is just busy doing their site inspections, permitting, and plan reviews. And that's all I have for updates.
Wow. Any questions for Lori?
Oh,
Do you want to talk at all about the STD positions and the council meeting? What's going on with that for mental? Not maybe not. Is anybody interested? Any positions?
Yeah, just give us an update. Sure. So still trying to receive approval for an additional disease intervention specialist position. That still has not happened yet, but that's something we've been working on all of this year. So during the 2024 budget session, the county approved for one DIS position to be paid out of Health First Indiana. Then we had some changes come to the grant that we have, the expansion to include additional counties. So that does provide funding for a third. That position has been posted. We are doing interviews for that third position, but we'd really still like to be able to have that fourth position. The hope was really to be able to use those Health First Indiana funds, at least temporarily, if not needed for the rest of the year, while we're waiting for additional grant funds for that fourth position. That hasn't happened quite yet, and the Indiana Department of Health is not anticipating sending the grant amendment for those additional funds until July. So,
Which is normal business for them, by the way. So this has nothing to do with loss of funds or anything. They really cut off in
It's the fiscal year.
sometimes it's April or May because they need to balance their books. So, and Lori and Sarah did an outstanding job on Tuesday night trying to convince.
As did you.
Not so much, but you guys were really awesome, trying to convince the council to approve the position, and some of them did vote for it, but the majority against. So, and our understanding of some of the reasons for that is that the county has a hiring freeze and they didn't want to make an exception for one department, even though we have the money. It's not that we don't have the money and we're asking them for money. But again, I just want to share from doing something similar since 1989. When the state has a freeze and you have a federal grant, the state will not let you fill those positions, even though you're standing there going, but I'm going to have to turn this money back to the federal government. And the state's like, we have a hiring freeze. So
Did
it
anyone
didn't
make the point?
super surprise me.
Sorry, did anyone make the point that, we've been hammered because we lost the $200,000 that was going to the Futures Clinic and say we mismanaged it. All of the money is here in the community being spent, and earmarked for that particular service. Yes, we have federal money now that's basically going to be reverting back because we can't hire the position. And I don't know if that was ever brought up.
I think everything we could have thrown at the wall got thrown. Yeah,
I'm not sure that it was heard, but that doesn't mean it wasn't said.
Is this the same thing that was tabled immediately upon the beginning of?
Yes. And before that
yeah. been
meeting and
tabled for a
before that
couple times,
meeting,
and now it's tabled indefinitely, which means that it's actually a procedural thing that works well, because when they table it indefinitely, it means that we don't have to post it for 3 weeks beforehand to get it on. So okay, we heard the hoot. So for all of you who are online, we apologize. We somehow became unplugged. We don't know what happened, but we are plugged in now, and yes, we can see the cameras on, so we apologize. Absolutely nothing happened while we were offline. And I think where we were was, I was saying, I remembered what my other question was that I kind of wanted to publicly let everyone know and then ask you. So as I understand it, a full year's worth of health insurance was taken out of our budget for one of the DIS positions that they are not now letting us hire for. And I asked Lori if she could get that money back because it strikes me as a little unfair. So do we have any updates on that?
I do not have any updates today, but I will be working on that to see. All we can do is ask. And either have the money back or
do a little more than ask.
or-
That seems grossly unfair to
fill the
me,
position.
but thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So it's out there now, just so everybody knows.
hopefully that's not an arduous process,
Well, hopefully it should just be a transfer of funds, wouldn't you think?
I would think.
Well, at the very least, we won't be paying future premiums for that position, right? I mean,
Well,
Well, we won't even put it in the budget if they won't give us the position.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why it's not in there now.
Thank you. Other questions about the budget before we vote? Once again, I want to say I really like this format. It was so helpful to me to understand. I know it took you some time to do, but thank you so much for doing it.
So are we gonna discuss individual contracts later then
When they come up,
when they come up?
yes,
Gotcha.
yes. So somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 proposed budget as presented.
Second that.
All in favor?
Uh,
All opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you so much. I did remember, and since we have time, this meeting went way faster than what I thought it was going to. I thought it was going to be very long and arduous, and it wasn't, which is great. I did think of one more new business agenda item, and I don't know if folks mind if I stick it on, but after our open house, I had talked to a couple of you about this, or I think I sent out an email. I would love it if we could, meaning anybody but me, because the open house about didn't end, but if you all think it's a good idea, I'd love to think of some way to recognize the employees and their good work, like something we could do for them that would be meaningful and say thank you. And I know from reading things like surveys that what employees want is either more time off or more money. I'm not sure we can do either of those things.
I'm sure we can't give them more money. That's kind of,
And so I guess I'm sorry, I jumped right ahead into talking about it, so I'll stick it here as number 5, but that's if you will allow me to add an agenda item. June meeting scheduling is next. So just the way the calendar fell, our June meeting is on a holiday. So we'll either need to reschedule the date or we will need to cancel it. I am never one to hold a meeting unless there's a reason to have a meeting. And
well, why don't we schedule one and then we can.
it seems like, don't get ahead of me. It
Sorry.
seems like we're talking to Lori that she's not anticipating any business that we would need to vote on in June because we voted on the budget right now. Things are just gonna run themselves for a while. We could always schedule a special session if something comes up and we have to vote on it. But as Steve preempted me and said, since we're here, if you guys would want to pick another date, and then if we don't have any agenda items, we will just cancel it. Thoughts?
I think we should schedule it. and
I think you should
cancel.
schedule it.
Should it be still a Thursday at 4:30? Because that seems to work for folks. So should it be the week before or the week after? So that would take us from the 12th to the 26th, either the 12th or the 26th. Do folks have any conflicts?
Well, the 19th would actually be the third Thursday, so
That's the
we
truth.
could do it the 12th or the 26th. It's Juneteenth.
Juneteenth.
That's why we have to move it.
Let's make it the 26th.
How does that look for people?
Looks like Thursday.
Sounds good.
Okay, so just be on the lookout. We're gonna move it to the 26th, but if we don't have business that's pressing and have to vote on something, we're gonna go ahead and cancel it. Thank you. So now to a very controversial topic. I've been getting all kinds of feedback. But I want to raise it anyway because I think it's important and I want to hear from you all. I have some very strong feelings that we need to change how we do public comment for this meeting. I don't think recently it has been productive or served public interest. I will speak for myself and say that is my opinion. So you all can have whatever opinion you would like to have. But I think there are some ways that we can still accommodate the public and get their input on issues, and I would like to see what you guys think. So I guess the most severe would be no public comment ever, no matter what, like. The second step,
Well, by the way, you should say, preface that with, it's not a requirement.
it is not a requirement, we are absolutely not required to have any public comment. However, there's a longstanding practice in public meetings. It is, we want to involve the public.
But it should be for our benefit and not,
It should be
hinder
for
us.
the public's benefit and for our benefit, and yeah,
Yeah.
it should, yeah. So I guess I was thinking two ways we could change it up, and we could do a combination of them. Now that we have an email that's strictly for the Board of Health, we could publicize that more widely, put it on our website, say any person at any time who wants to comment, like they don't have to wait for a board meeting anymore. They can write an email and we will get it and we will compile them and we will bring them to the board meetings and say, this is what we, I would imagine we could print them out and say, this is what we had for public comment. So we could do it that way. The other way, which again, we could still do, people can still write to us at the board. I mean, this doesn't preclude that, but I'm wondering if it would be more valuable if we changed up our public comment the way we did it, rather than have it be a free-for-all, talk about whatever you would like, but do it the way some other bodies do, which is when we are discussing something and voting on it, open it up for public comment on that issue so that their input is timely, it's purposeful, it's related to the issue, and they can say whatever they want.
do more of like a survey type comment versus a free for all type comment.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we could look and see, okay, so what do we actually want from the public? What kind of information would be helpful for us to make decisions? And we would ask just questions, like question one, I don't know what the topic would be is, are you commenting, do you want to comment on this topic? We could put the different topics there. Or the last one could be something else. We could maybe have a text at the end if they wanted to add additional information. But if we could get more, help them get more to the point, it might be more beneficial for us.
Okay, I don't understand how we would operationalize. Do you mean when they send an email, it would need to be on this survey, like we'd have a contact us or something, and it would be a distinct on these topics?
Well, I don't know if the health department uses a certain system for surveys, but if we could have a survey built and it would have a link to it, then we could post that link and then it would just be a universal link.
Okay, so that's another way to think about this. So
Yeah.
I just want to open it up now, because that's what I've been thinking about.
Either that or instead of individual emails, we look for themes. Like, we had some comments on this, and we kind of
And I'm
cut out the negativity,
that because I love that stuff.
because they're
But
going
I'm
to
just
toss it in
thinking
there.
in the
but,
future, I won't be the president, so I won't be doing this, and I don't want to stick this on a future president to go through all the emails and do the coding.
Well, I was,
Somebody's doing those surveys and somebody can help do
yeah,
it. Make it
you can get analytics from those surveys.
Yes.
It will group things using AI and do categories so that you don't have to waste your time.
Mhm.
I think that's a great idea. The other thing is, I'm a little bit worried about giving public comment on a specific thing that we're voting on. For one reason is because we have to give notice for 48 hours that we're having a meeting, but we don't have to give any notice if we want to take something off the agenda. We can actually even do it during the meeting. And then the person has come and we've taken it off the agenda and they're going, what's that? I was going to say something about that. Vote before you voted. And so I think it gives too much
Well, that's a
power.
good point.
Not that you would do that, but it can be done.
Sometimes it do change,
Yeah.
sometimes
We add things, not, we probably add things more frequently, we take off.
we add things a lot, and certainly if it's something we're voting on, we kind of have to vote on it. So I'm thinking that it's a
Yeah.
good example, but it may not happen because we always know, it's why the little stars are on the agenda. We know we have to vote on
We
it.
have some big thing come in though, we might table it. And we have people here to speak on it.
I think I don't. Most recently, public comment has been very difficult because it's adversarial and I don't like that. I do think that as a board, we're trying to maintain transparency and we think that I think is really important because we've experienced where things maybe aren't as transparent with other bodies and it's very frustrating. So I think having a venue where the public can come and make a comment and there's, they have 3 minutes to say their piece, I think is important, even though we may not like what's said.
But what about people that would like to make a comment and have just as much right to make one, but they are not able to come to a meeting? So could we do both? Where we have the public comment, but we also have the email where people can send in comments.
Sure, good.
I favor the written component as a way of helping people to focus and calm down the level of rhetoric and also allow us to screen out things that are inappropriate, like bad language and misbehaving.
And kind of part of my desire to do this came about at the open house when I realized that the strong negativity was having an effect on our employees. And we don't want that. These people are happy in their jobs and they felt abused. I'm doing air quotes. They felt abused by the continued tone
Negativity.
of the commenters of a very small.
Yeah, that's just it. It's very small.
And-
So I don't really think
And
we'd be
especially,
cutting.
Lori's one of our
a huge-
employees too, and I don't think she should have to, so I guess my thinking about having it confined to current items that we're voting on would mean that, to give you a silly example, we know during COVID, there were a lot of people that hated wearing masks, and Monroe County was very proactive about it. So what would be the point of people showing up to make public comment about mask wearing? It doesn't, today, I'm talking about today, somebody could come to this meeting today and
It
make a
doesn't.
public comment about mask wearing during COVID. I don't feel that serves the public interest. I don't think it helps us. So I'm trying to make public comment. I'm not trying to restrict it, trying to make it more valuable, actually, even though many are perceiving this, that I'm trying to restrict it, and I'm not. So thank you, George, for you.
Well, Lisa makes a very good point about transparency. I mean, that's something initiated by the public without benefit of a list of options in a questionnaire or something given to them as an agenda list. I think it's important.
I agree with Lisa that I think having public comment makes things more transparent. I think I don't always agree with what they say.
But
But
isn't the,
but they have a right to say it.
I just think the transparency is still there if we're going to include public comment. If we're asking for it and we're going to still include it in our meetings, there's still transparency there.
You've been surprisingly quiet.
And there's enough,
Well, it's because I have mixed feelings.
don't we have a place on our website where people can ask questions or put in comments? There have been times since I've been on the board that people have come and made a comment on something that was brought to our attention that we didn't even know was out there.
Well, like
So
a
it's
couple
been
meetings ago,
helpful.
remember with the gender change on the birth certificates? We didn't really know that,
No.
and it was an important issue, and
That's right.
I'm really glad that happened, but think about this. That same person could have submitted an email and we would have said, and holy cow, this is happening. We need to deal with this.
And we can always talk back to the whoever sends an email, and we could always say,
we can
you
invite
sent this, and we
them
just
to
want to
come
let you know what,
Speak more
happened?
about it is what I was thinking.
so they're not just left out
If it's
hanging
a
in their
very,
end.
You know, a timely important issue, we can say, you know,
Come
would
speak
you
to-
want to come? We'll put it
would
on as an
monitor all
agenda.
this?
We would, it'd be fun.
We would, the
I'm
board,
not
I
trying to be
mean,
facetious.
these guys have to check the email. And then, so they check the email like probably once a day. They've been sending it to me. We haven't had anything to tell you about other than today. There were a couple people saying, don't change the public comment. So I will say, people are saying, don't change the public, no, leave the public comment. So it would be more work for them.
Yes, it would. That's my point.
It would be work for them because I guess we can't have access to a county system to check the email.
Why?
So that's a consideration. We're not county employees. We're not in their system.
And we really don't usually have that many people who show up for public comment unless there's a issue out there where people are,
That's fine.
and that's okay. They have a right to say how they feel.
That's fine. I'm suggesting we might get more comments if we had something where people didn't actually have to come to voice their comment. And we would actually be engaging the public more that way. That's,
Yeah, I agree with that. I also agree with Lisa, while what I don't, I like people coming and being able to say what they want to say. That's fine. I mean, we definitely don't agree with some of the things that have been said here lately. The thing that bothers me is that people are coming back to repeatedly say the same thing over and over and over. To what end? I mean, I don't know. So I guess I would say maybe we continue to have, my feeling is we continue to have public comment in person. But we could also have the publicize the email, you know, and to Kay's point is, you know, we typically don't have a lot of people coming, spending a lot of time unless we're talking about something controversial or they have an axe to grind. I mean, basically, that's,
Well, and I guess I would anticipate if we had something controversial, we would welcome, we would kind of set up the meeting agenda differently and say, we're gonna be talking about this huge thing. The public is invited. We want to, you know, we want to hear from you. I think that would be a different, I'm talking about our routine, our boring, our boring, normal meetings, you know, where we're kind of mostly business.
what's nice, actually, we do have these meetings where there isn't a disruption and that we can actually attend to our business and give it our full attention.
Exactly. And that was another reason for my wanting to bring this up with you.
So, okay,
Ma'am.
so what I'm hearing is that there's basically consensus and a bit of disagreement about the strategies to use to meet our need, because the need is to be transparent to the public and to have the public be able to communicate with us. It seems as if, as I'm listening, that indeed most people have access to email. They could easily send an email suggesting whatever it is on their mind. That email then, especially if they feel very strongly about it, they can say, I'd like to speak to the board at a meeting, at which point they could be put onto the agenda with clear delineation of how much time. And because, excuse me,
I'm sorry.
because I remember our having a visitor and they took up 30 to 40 minutes with
I
their
was so
public
impatient.
comment. And it was like, but what is your point? What are you really asking the board to do? And we never got that answer. So we would circumscribe the amount of time given to any individual to comment, but they would need to be actually put on the agenda. And I would suggest that it's, while I hear that having someone here personally, which I enjoy, is great, but that limits access. And I'm into accessibility. And if someone is taking care of their 5 children at home but want to comment on something, they should be able to visit with us in the hybrid fashion, the same way board members can be here in hybrid fashion on a limited basis.
Or send us an email.
Well, but they have, all of this has to be done through the email and through invitation. They cannot just show up in hybrid fashion and expect to be on the agenda and to address the board, except through this email that will then be pulled, basically. And people who have been here repeatedly saying the same thing, I don't think would necessarily be invited to come and say the same thing one more time, because it does not move our agenda forward. It doesn't help personnel,
Right.
and it does not help any of the board members because we've heard it. So that's my say. Thank you.
Lori, may I ask you, can you anticipate if we saw an influx, let's say we had, I don't know, 10 people who wanted to send emails? How hard would that be for you guys to send them to me or the board president or in the future? Because I'm happy to take that on. I'm totally happy to. I have time. My basement's fixed. I can do anything.
Can't they automatically be forwarded?
I could look at that. That would even be easier. I'm happy to take that responsibility. When I'm not president, I will still do it
I was gonna say,
for you
and
guys.
you
Or we
can
could
always
rotate the.
I heard
we could
that.
rotate it. I know. Email doesn't bother me. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I have so many emails. My email doesn't bother me. Okay, thank you for answering that question. So what would you all like to do with this?
People have their hands up online, is that, do we address that? Or
We are not taking public comment during this meeting. There is no public comment on the agenda. And yeah, you can crucify me later. I'm sorry, I'm over it. What would board members like to do with this?
I kind of like the idea of the hybrid part of what Diana has mentioned, and yet still allow the people to come in and say something, but I guess you're saying that they need to be scheduled on the docket, on the agenda.
So last week I read the open door law for Indiana. And part of it says that if you offer a comment time for the public, and you know in advance that there's too many people coming to fit into your room, it's your own responsibility to find a bigger space.
Huh,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
So that could be a negative.
this is a
We don't have a lot of other
tight,
space.
teeny room. Yeah.
We could always
So
conference in the next
If we
meeting,
knew
maybe.
we had a really controversial item, we would in advance schedule a larger meeting and invite the public. Yeah,
Yes, and we've done that. In the past, we had a meeting in the council.
yeah,
Upstairs in the courthouse.
especially during COVID. Yeah.
Well, in COVID, we couldn't even meet. I mean, we weren't allowed to meet together. We had to do it by
We had,
internet. I
the
don't.
last time
think
we did that was when we had an ordinance maybe to have people not smoke in their cars
Tobacco, yeah.
with children in it.
Mhm.
Somebody brought that up the other day too. That's funny.
It was an interesting concept.
Yeah.
But we all Zoomed with COVID.
So I guess I'm looking for a motion, or we could table it, we could,
It simply says discussion
It
on
says
your agenda,
discussion.
so you don't have to table it. You could have a motion.
If someone wants to make a
Exactly.
motion,
But you don't need to table something.
So we can,
that
we
doesn't
can
have a
be, we can be totally done with this.
So for the open door law, do we not have to have, I mean, yes, it's a public meeting, it's filmed, but do we're not required to have
No, no,
public comment?
no.
No.
Well, even though we're not required, do we want to still have an avenue for doing that? And I would be in that category. I just feel that we have to have allow the public to have access one way or another to comment on some of the things that we're doing.
What I was gonna say is that we can always have an email go back to whoever sends us email comments, that if they want to get on the schedule, that we can put them on the schedule.
Yeah. I think that
That if they would prefer that.
It sounds like we need a written policy to vote on. Some real practical suggestions as to how to proceed.
Well, I'm not
Anybody feel
sure.
inspired?
Yeah, see, I'm not sure we all agree, because it sounds like there are some people that don't want to make it, they want to keep it as is.
I want to keep it as is, but I also can agree to having a written policy in addition to it.
Okay. What do you guys, any thoughts? Written policy?
A policy paper would give us something to discuss in a more constructive fashion.
And then
We could really
amend
focus
that-
on it.
amend as we see fit before we vote on it.
Okay.
Do we want to call it a policy though?
Call it a white paper.
Procedure?
The board can adopt policies, any
I like
policy you want, as long as it doesn't go against state law.
Okay.
I asked this only half jokingly. Will we be seeking public comment for our policy? Public comment?
I don't think,
So, I'm guessing
Well,
that,
I think there's two issues. I mean, there would be eventually two votes. One, whether or not to keep public comment in the fashion we have it, and then whether or not to add an additional avenue, I think is the issue at hand.
and well, I think
And
the
Mike-
other one is whether it's scheduled or it's just whenever they want to come.
Well,
To,
that's what I was saying is, I mean, I don't.
okay, this has been helpful. So I guess my next question is for our next meeting, whether we have it in June or July. Would you, because we won't have a clear answer by then on how we're changing it. Do you want the agenda to go back to the way it was with the open public comment for our next meeting while we're working on the policy?
Yes, I think that would be.
And then we can have all these people show up to talk about the public comment.
I disagree.
So it sounds like we should maybe vote on this. So just so I know what the agenda should look like for our next meeting, if you know what I mean.
Is there already a board policy about this subject? Do we have any board policies that have been published that we're honoring already?
Because don't we have the right to change it as we need to?
Well, yeah.
Not that we would want to.
Yeah,
but-
that's why I changed it tonight. We absolutely have the right. But I would just like to know
Or
in
should we
advance what
even-
you guys want me to do with the next month's agenda.
I think we should vote just to see where we are. If that helps.
Okay, so just for the next month's, whether it's June or July, does someone want to make a motion about where public comment is on the agenda?
Well, if you're gonna leave it on the agenda, just let's put it up at the beginning again.
But then we take it away again. I think once you take something away, you need to be sure that you're not going to take it away again once you give it back. Because then we'll have public
This would
comment
be
about
while
that.
we're working on policy. So I'm not sure we can have a policy in place by the time we have this meeting.
That's my only concern.
Well, we have a de facto policy. We've been having an open forum for years, right? So it's kind of a de facto policy. We've
Okay.
never
So
never put it in
so
writing,
go
but
back to it.
I think I will. That's what I would
Okay.
vote.
Okay,
That's
okay.
fine.
So whenever we meet next, we'll put that back on as being. Any volunteers to draft a policy?
Go ahead.
I'll take a try at it.
Oh, you're such a sweetheart. Thank you. I was hoping you'd say that. Anybody want to work with George?
I'll work with George.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you had some good ideas, just to make sure to clarify.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And do we have the IT expertise to do some of these fancy?
We have Microsoft Forms.
With serve days online? Okay, good. I wasn't sure we did.
And I mean, I know how to use those. It's not like, I mean, I could help
Good. Well, thank
if
you.
it becomes.
I really,
something we can do.
really appreciate everybody's thoughts on this. Thank you so much.
And even like those forums, they keep data.
Okay, we're gonna get Steve out of here on time. The new item I added, employee recognition day or something is what I'm calling it. Employee recognition something. Diana had a great idea involving horses. I'm not sure we have the money to have them do the wonderful horse thing.
Do you want me to get more information about it?
I kind of want to ask Lori, do we have any money to do anything with? Because whatever we do, I think is gonna, if we want to treat them to a lunch
We're allowed
or
to do
something.
I don't think we're allowed to do that.
Last time we had a retreat, it's because we had a grant that covered it.
They wouldn't ride horses. It would be more like a horse therapy where they would be able to interact with horses and things like that.
well, I think that it's probably, I don't know, because Lori's the expert. It would seem that if the board wants to do anything like that, it will be like the food for the open house, that the board is going to need to contribute funds in order to do whatever. That this is not something that can come out of the budget.
Okay.
And is that correct, Lori? That your understanding as well?
Yeah, so. Unless we have a specific grant, which we don't, because we used it for the last retreat.
And one of the other questions I would have for you is, rather than setting something aside, is this something that the board could underwrite for like the big section meetings? That, there would be a brunch and a bunch of brunch food out at one of the big section meetings, which occur every 3 months,
The department meetings
Yeah.
are quarterly. And
Okay.
the individual.
Yeah.
ones are-
and certainly what I've discovered through emails is that the employees love food.
They love food.
They love food, they love to party. So, they will all be together at a section, most of them in a section meeting, so.
I would also like to suggest as an alternative, an item of apparel, like a very nice jacket with the health department logo on it or something
That
of that
would
sort.
be nice. I agree.
I mean, everyone would presumably be able to enjoy that. Yeah.
Do you have like an employee of the month kind of thing?
We did that last year. It was just kind of like a recognition, and we'll do stuff at the quarterly meetings.
Your hat, you've got your hat where you recognize people.
Yeah, so people can give like recognition.
So
and that's-
I mean, we don't necessarily have to have something completely separate, not that we don't want to, but
could contribute.
that might be a
I
suggestion.
like the idea. I like all the ideas. I like kind of aligning it with the quarterly meetings. Anyway, maybe we could just do something somehow like
Ice cream social.
get something, some kind of good food for the quarterly meeting that maybe they weren't expecting, or maybe we could find somebody to donate a gift card or something, and they could have a drawing or, I don't know.
Sounds like we need to have an account where we can take care of our own employees that way as a board to reward them. And
Yeah.
some boards that I've been reading about have set up accounts with local foundations that's separate from county money, it's kept separate. And then that way you have control over that money yourselves. You don't have to ask permission to
That'd be nice.
reward your employees.
What
I think
we,
it's a very small gesture, but we could also just send a letter to each employee and all the boards sign it, thanking them for their service and what they do and da, da, da. And I think that's meaningful.
When I was teaching, what, we would do for faculty is different organizations would give gift certificates and they were usually pretty generous. So there's always that sort of
That's
option
kind of
too.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's continue to think about this and work on it. If anybody has any ideas or. I'm not sure we can get anything together for July. Although it seems like July is just around the corner.
Don't think that way. Is that gonna happen?
Are you volunteering?
I mean, I could, yeah, I mean, I would be perfectly willing to talk with Olga and see what we can do. Been month and a half, seems like a long time.
Okay. You heard him. Thank you. Thank you. Any board member, health officer comment? Kind of brief updates on anything you're doing or anything you know about, Lisa?
So our, one of our goals was to work on getting data for chronic diseases. And we have our report for this month. It looks like there were 328 public health visits. The outreach, there were quite a few blood pressures, blood sugars, but the in-house visits, I'm not sure exactly how many those were, but there were no blood pressure checks and no weight checks again. So I just would like to see that, like to see those numbers improve as we
Well,
move forward.
since we were told that they are doing that, I suspect they're not doing it. I suspect they're having a problem getting the data into the system so it shows up on a report. And
But they do have a data that they announce, and surely they're keeping their own metrics, I would think, that we will be able to access.
so if
'Cause I can't believe it,
I,
that's true,
Well, right. So-
but I agree that
But
it doesn't
we,
show.
I mean, part of moving us forward, especially this year, is, starting the data gathering process. And so,
so I do think we need to ask again, what might be going on with this, because I'm sure they're doing it. I just think it's not being
I will ask when I'm there next week.
awesome.
So it is one of the things we talked about in our meeting.
Yeah.
I will speak to them about it.
Yeah, and I've had a whole lot of situations with a whole lot of people that just weren't pushing the right button to get the data into the system.
Well, it shouldn't allow you, some systems won't allow you to close the visit unless you've got basic data in there.
Yeah.
Weight, BMI, blood
Yeah.
pressure. I just had a vaccine down there last week and they took my blood pressure.
All right, all
And they
right.
said they put it in Chirp, my vaccine in Chirp, but I don't know what they did with my blood pressure.
I don't know, but I will find out.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Any others? Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will enter such an movement.
I will second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed to adjourning? Isn't that a silly question?
Yes.
Yep.
Thanks a lot,
Let's
guys.
go in the-
Appreciate this.